we're here to protect you and the ones that you love. It's a good feeling to know that our efforts aren't going unnoticed.
It actually brought tears to my eyes to know that we have this support.
You're welcome. I must just say you're welcome. It's stressful, but we're not going anywhere.
Hey, welcome to another edition of Bucknell Baseball Through the Decades. My name's Todd Newcomb, and I want to thank our sponsor, Geisinger, for all that they do for our community, our student athletes, and everybody in the surrounding communities here during these ever-changing days of this pandemic. They've done great work on the front lines, and we really appreciate all that Geisinger does. Today, we're going to be visiting with some of the alums from the decade of the 70s, and we've got a great session in store for you with some super guests and a current member of our current Bucknell baseball team, as well as head coach Scott Heather. I'm going to introduce each of our guests, and then I'll kick it over to Coach to get our session going. First of all, our current player who's joining us today is a sophomore pitcher from Mount Kisco, New York. That's Chris DiFiore, and we thank Chris for joining the call. And then our guest, two are currently on the call, and one will join us in progress. He apologizes, but got caught up in a meeting, and he just can't get here as we start. I'll introduce him first since he's not here. That's Jack Recko from the class of 1977. Jack lettered in 1974, 75, 76, and 77. He was a four-year letterman. He was the team captain in 1977. He had the third best single season in school history with a 1.44 ERA in 1975. He's listed among the top 10 in 5 additional career pitching categories, including strikeouts where he's third, complete games where he's third, and innings pitched where he's fifth, also ERA where he's seventh. He was an all East Coast Conference selection in 1975. Our next guest from the class of 1970s, Randy Ruger. Randy lettered in 1968, 69, and 70. He was a 3-year letterman also on the football team, earning all conference honors twice in that sport. He was the team captain of the baseball team in 1970, and 50 years after graduating, he still holds the single season records for batting average at .494, slugging percentage at .883, and on-base percentage at .557, all set during the 1969 season. He won the NCAA batting crown that year. He also holds the career slugging percentage mark at .675 and has a share of the school record he set at first, a 27-game hitting streak that he put together over the 69 and 1970 seasons. He ranks second all-time with a .398 batting average. He was an all-Middle Atlantic Conference first-team selection in 1969, and Randy was inducted into the Bucknell Athletics Hall of Fame in 1982. Our final guest today is Gene Lucarelli from the class of 1971. Gene lettered in 1969, 70, and 71. He also lettered 3 times as a member of the football team. He was a team captain in 1971. Strange comparisons between these guys. He was an all-Middle Atlantic Conference selection in 1971 after leading the team with a .396 batting average, and he was inducted into the Bucknell Athletics Hall of Fame in 1991. So, Scott, another great group. We're really going to enjoy this session. I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, guys, thanks for jumping on with us. Yeah, like Todd said, definitely looking forward to all these stories, and it's great reconnecting with you guys. And certainly uncertain times, but finding ways to connect is always good, and appreciate you taking the time and everything that you do for Bucknell athletics and in particular the baseball program. So Randy, we'll start with you. Just kind of take us back to the beginning and how you wound up playing baseball at Bucknell.
Well, Scott, I had played baseball from the time I was 9 years old. So, I couldn't get through the year without playing baseball. And when it came to Bucknell, I was actually recruited more on the football side by Coach Huntress. But, fortunately for me, he led to my parents agreeing to send me to Bucknell. It's funny, I had actually gotten a full scholarship to the University of Virginia. And even though I got nothing to come to Bucknell, my dad said, "You're going to Bucknell." And he was a graduate as well as my older brother. And that told me a lot about how he felt about the Bucknell experience. So that pretty well clinched it, But once I got to Bucknell, there was no doubt I was going to play baseball. I just went out and did my best to impress the coach at the time, and one thing led to the next.
For sure. Gene, how about you?
Well, okay. I was also recruited to play football at Bucknell. Back in those days, I don't think baseball players were that heavily recruited. So I wanted to find a school that was regionally close to where I grew up in northern New Jersey. And at the same time, I wanted to be able to find a school that would allow me to participate in both sports, okay, both football and baseball. Bucknell was willing to do that, although Coach Huntress, who recruited me as well, was a little bit down on the fact that, I wouldn't be at spring practice for football, but I'd be on the baseball field. But certainly that was one of the criteria. And of course, obviously, the reputation of the school and the fact that it was within driving distance to my home in northern New Jersey. And I think, you add it all up. I had a couple of other opportunities. I had a scholarship to play football at Temple. I had an offer to play at Holy Cross. Temple was, big city stuff, Philadelphia. I wasn't really interested in big city stuff. Holy Cross, I had gone up there for a recruiting session, and they had a few bad words to say about Bucknell. So I wasn't happy about that as well. So I came back and I talked to my mom and dad, and they said, no, I think your heart's set on Bucknell, and that's where I wound up.
Well, lucky for us at Bucknell, that's what you guys chose, and certainly a better choice than wearing purple.
Right, exactly.
Good. We'll go back to you, Randy. Describe your baseball experience at Bucknell in the 70s. Where was the field at? Was there like a locker room? How did you travel the games? All that type of stuff.
Well, I guess we had a locker room of sorts back then. I mean, we could change and stuff, and basically our games were all at a field which doesn't exist anymore. It was right outside the stadium, and so it was a different experience back then than it is now. It's great to see what is included in the program out there now. But we had a lot of fun. I mean, when you're going through it, you don't know any better, right? You don't know how great things can be, maybe 10, 20, 30 years down the road. So for us, it was great. We had a lot of fun. We would take the buses to the away games and stuff, and we'd have a lot of fun. And particularly my junior year, when we did win the championship, certainly winning makes the experience a lot more fun. And so it certainly was in 1969 for us. And so it was a very different time, but it was still a great time. And Gene and I'm sure everybody looks back on those years with great fondness. And we think about it a lot.
Right. No, that's great. Gene, how about you? Anything to add there?
Well, yeah, Randy's being very modest. Okay, we came down to the last weekend in spring. It was early May. We had to win a doubleheader against Delaware to win the conference. We had won the first game, and the second game, both teams ran out of pitching, and we wound up with we were down 14-12, I believe, in the bottom of the 6th or 7th inning. And my friend there, Mr. Ruger, who was already 6 for 6 that day, got up. I happened to be on first base. We had a runner on second. So we had, we were the tying runs, and Randy would have been the winning run. And, of course, he unloaded one over the right field fence. And we wound up winning 15-14. Okay, so that kind of capped his career and his game, his season by going 7 for 7 in a doubleheader, and having us win our conference championship So that was the highlight for me. A couple other quick highlights. We were probably the first team in the country to have a female Batgirl. Okay.
Oh, wow.
Sandy Old, she was our Batgirl, I believe my senior year, the year after the Delaware game. And of course, I'd like to comment just on the bus trips. We had Randy and I like to mention that we probably have logged more miles on the Bison bus than anybody else. I mean, between all those baseball trips and the football trips, and we did some serious baseball trips. We went up to Syracuse and Pittsburgh and Buffalo. And of course, we went down south to North Carolina, South Carolina, and played some pretty good competition like you guys are doing these days. So those are probably the most memorable experiences for me in the program.
Sure, I like it. Chris, why don't you ask the next one?
I guess this is directed towards both of you guys, but so in baseball, there's a lot of failure, and so do you have any tips or advice on how to, when you're going through failure, when you're in a slump, how to get out of it and how to get back to success?
You can start with Randy.
Well, it's a good question, Chris. I think first of all, and fundamentally, you got to try to keep believing in yourself. I mean, that's the one thing you want to keep nurturing. And you didn't get the Bucknell, you wouldn't be playing on the team if you weren't incredibly talented, and you just need to remind yourself of that once in a while. I think you want to just have faith that you're going to break out of that, whatever that negative cycle happens to be at that particular point. It doesn't hurt to consult with your coach a little bit. If you're having a tough time, it's not going to be a surprise if you mention it to him. He's aware of it, and he may have some ideas, or sometimes it's just good to talk about it and kind of vent a little bit. But it probably doesn't hurt maybe just to tweak what you're doing a little bit. Sometimes just a little bit of a change can make a huge difference in terms of how well you're doing. But the good thing about the down cycles is they tend to be short. It's sort of like the stock market. The down markets tend to be short-lived, and the bull markets tend to last a long time. So thank God, I think it works that way on the baseball field too.
Great. Gene, how about you?
Yeah, okay. Well, for me, I juxtapose football and baseball, okay? Football, it's obviously a once-a-week game. And, it all kind of builds in a crescendo, and then Saturday, you let it all loose. Baseball is a game that you can play every day, and a lot of times you guys do play every day. And so what happened yesterday is sort of irrelevant, and you just have to get your focus back and get in the mindset that, today's another day. I think the big thing with baseball, if you look at it, 3 times out of 10 you're successful at the plate. That's a pretty good average. Okay, so that means 7 times out of 10 you're not you're not accomplishing any. Well, maybe you are, but you're not moving your average forward. But so I think there's a lot more potential for failure in baseball, and I think that it will be important to kind of put it behind you, and tomorrow's another day, and you just get out there and you forget about the past and focus on the present.
Sure, I like that. You guys both, played for one of the Bucknell's athletic legends, and Tommy Thompson. Any special memories of, or lasting impacts that he had on you that you guys could speak? We'll start with Gene on this one.
All right. Well, first of all, let me compliment the Bucknell baseball program. All right. Number one, there's been 3 coaches in probably the last 50 years. Okay, which is really, really important. Okay. Look, Tommy was a mentor to all of us. He had great credentials himself, so we always looked up to him. And of course, Gene Depew, who was a classmate of mine, was his assistant for many years. And then he took over the program and ran it for many, many, many years. And then, of course, you, Scott, coach, you were his assistant for many years after that. And now you've been there, and I'm assuming you're grooming an assistant at some point in the time to take over for you. So the continuity in the baseball program is really, really impressive to me. But Tommy, being a former pitcher, he loved to throw batting practice. He had a big 12-6 curveball. It didn't break a whole lot, but started at 12 and ended up at 6. And he dared us to hit it, and at times, he'd brush us back occasionally. So, he's a guy that will always be remembered by me, and as well as Gino, because Gino is a great classmate of mine. He was also the captain of our football team, and so he was a very special guy in my life as well.
That's great. Some of my favorite memories here at Bucknell are sitting down with those two in the office and just hearing the stories of, all the Bucknell competitions they've been a part of. And when I first got to Bucknell, Tommy was always in the dugout, and helping out. He was helping the umpires out, bringing out the baseball. Just a great bench coach. He kind of knew when I should go out to the mound as the pitching coach. Right. He always had timely tips. I know for basketball, he was that way too with that. Randy, any additional thoughts on Tommy?
Well, everything Gene said was perfectly right on. And, my memory of Tommy was he just had a great passion for being out there on the ball field. And obviously, with his history and his experience playing in the pros, I mean, we were really impressed with all that, because some of us, I don't know how many of us were thinking we might play pro ball, but whether we were or not, it was great to have a coach that actually played pro ball. And who was his roommate, pal? I can't remember.
Oh, it's Denny McClain.
Denny McClain, right. So Denny, and we all knew Denny McClain. Well, we knew of him. Let's put it that way. That even made him more impressive, right? But he was just a great coach. I mean, he was passionate about the game. He was passionate about making us better individually as well as a team. And he loved to win. He hated to lose. And he got passionate about it. I mean, he let us know, he let us know in both occasions, if we won or if we lost, that, he didn't take anything casually as far as that goes. And he just created a great team morale, and we all came together under his stewardship. And particularly that 69 year, I think we all felt so good that we could deliver the coach that championship. I think that was sort of our way of saying thanks for everything he had done. Because he hung in there during some lean times too, most notably the year before, which is when we went 0-15. So he knew what it was like on both sides, of the aisle, right?
For sure. I can remember him telling the story. I think it was when Coach Depew was his assistant, and it was one of those southern trips, and the fans were getting on him a little bit, and he had enough, and he told Gene, I'm out of here, and he went out and argued a call and got tossed, and so that was Gene's first job as a head coach to deal with that, and Tommy watched from the bus the rest of the day.
Yeah.
But this one's for Gene. And you kind of alluded to it earlier. You witnessed one of the best, if not the best, offensive performances in school history with the 7-for-7 day. And what was it like watching that type of performance and just the consistency of it? And take us back to that day.
Well, well, first of all, Randy, he only hit line drives. I mean, I don't know how he did it. I mean, he didn't hit the ball high. He didn't hit any fly balls, and he didn't hit any ground balls. He hit line drives consistently, okay? The interesting thing about the Delaware game, the second game, the 15-14 game, was that I was actually on first base. We had a runner on second, and so when the ball went over my head, I knew I had to score. I believe there were 2 outs. I knew I had to score in order to tie the game. Okay. So I had no idea whether the ball was going out or whether or not it was going to be in play. But I know I kind of felt like, I'm going to score from first base and tie this game up. Of course, then I think the right fielder for Delaware crashed through our storm fence, and he broke the fence, and it went over the fence. And of course, it was house party weekend as well, and there were a lot of people that were at that game. It was probably our biggest crowd we have ever had for a baseball game, and so the place went nuts. And I'll remember it to this day, and I have very fond memories of that particular event.
I love that, for sure. I guess, Randy, what was your most memorable experience as part of the Bucknell baseball program?
Well, I have to say that was the ultimate for me. Like I say, it was just such an incredible experience, and you don't even think about what's happening through the course of the day. I mean, we wanted to win. We wanted to win both games, so we were real happy that we won the first game. And I was either 4 for 4 or 3 for 3. I forget how it worked out after the first game. But, you don't even think about it, because really all you're trying to do at that point is win the game. And anyway, we got into the second game, and things kind of worked out the right way. But, it's funny because Gene is saying, you kind of knew, Gene, that you needed to score when I hit the ball, right? And the thing that was crazy for me that day, and I've never had this happen in my life before or since, but I've been asked a lot of times from friends and stuff, well, how did you feel when you were up there and it was like 2 outs and it was, 2 guys on base and you're down by 2, and you have the chance to win the game or strike out or whatever you're going to do. And I tell them, for whatever reason, I had this feeling that day in that particular situation, particularly, that I knew something good was going to happen. Just like Gene was saying, he knew he had to score or at least get the third or whatever. I knew something good was going to happen. Didn't know I was going to hit a home run and we'd win the game on that particular at bat, but I just knew something good was going to happen, and I had absolutely no doubt. It was just like I said, I've never had an experience like that before or since, and it was just an incredible day. And I think the lacrosse team won the championship that same day, so it was a big weekend for Bucknell sports on that day.
I love that you guys remember it so vividly, still to this day, and can kind of take yourself back there and take us back there with you. I'm just wondering why they kept pitching to you. Who was the coach at Delaware, and what was he thinking?
Well, that's a funny story too, because apparently, this guy just kept feeding me fastballs, and that's my favorite pitch. It was my favorite pitch. And it's so funny because the center fielder what happened to be a fellow that I had played high school ball with when I grew up in Baltimore. And he had told the pitcher, he told me later, said, I told the pitcher, if Ruger gets up, do not throw him any fastballs. and I said, well, his name was Glenn. I said, well, Glenn, that's the best thing you could have done for me, because you challenged him to beat me with a fastball, right? Because you were calling on him, and you were, and so he was determined to get that fastball by me. And I think I fouled off about 3 in a row. It was really crazy time. Right. But finally I caught the last one, and we had a lot of fun afterwards, for sure. But it was just one of those it was kind of like the dream of a lifetime for me,
Absolutely, kind of what you envision as a kid in the backyard.
Yeah.
Up in those situations.
Yeah.
Chris, why don't you ask the next question?
All right. So now that I'm not a freshman anymore, I'm going sophomore year. I know I got to start stepping up as more of a leader. in high school, I've tried being a vocal leader and I've tried leading by example, and I'm not really sure which one would work best. What leadership qualities do you think that I should try to use as I'm coming up now as a sophomore?
Well, Chris, that's a very individual thing. You've got to do what you feel comfortable with, and I think you have to look inside and see what works for you. And I think, it's going to be different. It'll be different for you, it'll be different for you, and it'll be different for somebody standing right next to you. I mean, everybody kind of looks at it in a little different way. You know what your strengths are, and what you feel has to be done on the field to get the guys to be prepared to win games and to a lot of baseball. It's funny. Baseball is a funny game, as Gene was saying earlier. Baseball is one of those games where you have to take it seriously, but you also, I think, you need to have fun out there. And I think Gene would probably agree. Our coach in '69 was a guy I wanted to mention, Frank Reynowitz, who was our captain. Did I say coach? I meant captain. He was our captain, and Frank had an incredible ability to be serious, but he also had an incredible ability to have fun at the same time. And he was kind of crazy in a lot of ways, I suppose, but he just made it all fun, and yet he had this laser-like focus to win, and so I don't know, it's a challenging question. I think we all wrestle with that, Chris, but I think bottom line, you got to do what works for you and what feels comfortable for you, and your style will be different from virtually anybody else out there. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's no pure, one way to do it.
All right. Thank you.
Well,
Gene?
Yeah, okay. Well, I would say work ethic is going to be important. The other guys around you are going to see either how hard or not so hard that you work. Okay, so that will be important. I'm a firm believer that you do in games what you do in practice. Okay, so I would not try to shortcut my practices. I would get out there and go through your routines as if you were it was game situation. I think the important thing now that you've mentioned that you're going to be a sophomore rather than a freshman. I mean, back in our day, freshmen could not participate in varsity sports. We were relegated to freshman sports. So once we became sophomores, we were kind of the bottom rung on the totem pole in terms of, senior, junior, sophomore. But in your case now, second year in the program, I think it's time to step it up and step to the forefront a little bit more and be a little bit more assertive. And look, and in particular, you're a specialist, you're a pitcher. So you got to do your work in between games, and you got to put your best effort into it when it's time to get out there on the mound. And I think there's all different kinds of leaders. There's vocal leaders and there are quiet leaders. And I don't know what your style is going to be, but I think you're at a point now where you're now an integral part of the team, and you've got some history under your belt, and I think you can certainly step up and assert yourself in a leadership role.
Definitely.
Great advice for sure. Jack, great that you could jump on here. Good to have you.
Hello, guys. How are you?
good. How are you?
I'm doing fine, thank you. Sorry I'm a little late.
No problem at all. Jack, we have one of our current players on here as well. Chris is also a left-handed pitcher. And
Hello, Chris.
yeah.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Where are you from?
I'm from Mount Kisco, New York.
Okay. So,
Scott, do you want to ask Jack some of the questions you've asked the other guys previously and let him
Sure.
answer some of those real quick?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Jack, take us back kind of to the beginning of how you wound up playing baseball at Bucknell.
So let's see. So I graduated high school in '72, and I applied to Bucknell, and I didn't get in. My father thought I needed to go to prep school because I wasn't so smart. So I go to prep school, and then I get into Bucknell the next year, and pitched there for 4 years, and I had a wonderful time with Coach Thompson. And back then we were, I think, Randy, you were probably what, 68, 69?
70, actually.
70, and Gene, you were kind of the
71, right.
Okay, so did maybe there was one or two guys that overlapped me and you guys. Denny Dean,
Don't remember that name.
he was a catcher. No. John, how about Walsh? Was it John Walsh? No.
No.
But anyway, it was a tough league. We're ECC, East Coast Conference, and we played, as you know, back then, Penn State, Pittsburgh, Delaware, and then a lot of smaller schools, Juniata and Susquehanna and Bloomsburg and things like that. And when I was there for the 4 years I was at Bucknell, we never went south. Although Coach Thompson kept saying, "Oh, we're going to go down to Fort Myers," and I said, "Okay." So, when you come back and play at the end of March, in the infield it's frozen still, right? And you can't slide into second base, and you can't turn the double play. It was very difficult. And then I graduate in '77. And I find out the next year in '78 they go to Fort Myers. I really enjoyed my time there. It was playing only 20 games or 21 games at the most, and not really going to any playoff games and things like that. But it was fun. We had a great time. A lot of us were fraternity brothers that played together, and it was Coach Depew was a big part of it also. Sorry, both of them are not with us anymore, but they were great teachers and great friends of mine. And so, I enjoyed the 4 years immensely. I think I was a better baseball player than a student. That's for sure. There was no question about that. One of the other reasons I went to prep school is because I had to get my board's over 1,000. It took me three attempts to do that. So English was a problem for me. But anyway,
I tell you what, we'll do more things to get those left-handed pitchers in nowadays. We got to make sure we have those guys. So I'm glad you stuck with it. Had one of the greatest careers for sure. Talk about Tommy a little bit, Jack. Any special memories or lasting impacts that he had on you, that you could speak to?
You mean the Coach Thompson?
Yeah, Coach Thompson.
Well, yeah. I mean, he was always, pushing you to get better, and helped me try to develop a third pitch or maybe a fourth pitch. Playing high school ball and Legion baseball and competitive baseball till I was about 28 or 29. I never played in the Cape League. But, it was always about staying in shape and, of course, I'm not so sure it was so much eating the right thing, because back then people really didn't care so much as they do now, nutrition and things like that. But, be there on time and show up and do your work and as a pitcher, do your running and do your stretching and, just have fun out there. And that's what we all tried to do, was just have a great time. And when it came time, put on your game face, let's pay attention for those 3 hours or 2.5 hours back then, not 4 hours or 4.5 like the major league teams are nowadays. But, and traveling on the buses and a lot of these guys are still my friends. And by the way, where the hell are the other guys in my classes? Where's Bumpus and where's Simonson and where's Craig Coomer? And nobody else is here. This is it.
This is it. This is it for we maybe should add another one and get your teammates in there. That would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I would love to do that. That would be great. And bonding on the bus rides and 2 hours down here, 3 hours to Gettysburg, and going out to Pittsburgh. It was great. I mean, we had so much fun, and I'm really glad that I know Bucknell baseball has come a long way since when we played back in the 70s and mid 70s and things like that. And you guys have had some great teams and gone to tournaments and things like that. And so I wish you guys all the luck, continue that. And so I have a question. What's going to happen in the fall? I mean, you guys, is Bucknell back to full
Sure.
strength as far as going to school?
Yeah, they're planning on coming back to school August 17th. So our adjustment was to come back a little bit earlier. They canceled fall break, and then won't come back after Thanksgiving break to limit the travel. But we're going to be allowed to practice. Fall sports just actually got canceled, but we're going to be able to practice and do our player development stuff. We'll have a little bit more time to do that too, with starting earlier. So we're excited about that for sure. And the guys are, chomping at the bit. Our approach is going to be to play a lot. They lost out on a lot of at-bats and stuff, both in the spring and summer. So we're going to try to scrimmage a lot and just play and try to make up for that and compete to get ready for the season. Jack, what was your out pitch back in the day? You had a lot of strikeouts in your career. How did you get those strikeouts?
Probably, well, since I never really developed a third pitch. Plus, I got heavy. I was eating pizza and watching Johnny Carson most night, and that became a little bit of a problem. But probably my fastball, I guess. If it got to be 2-2 on the count, I pretty much had to throw a fastball because I always joked that my third baseman, Paul Steiners, had a hole in his glove. And, I said, Steiny, I got to get you another glove. I mean, it's not so much about the range as it is about catching the ball.
Right.
So, for some of the playing against some of the better schools, Pittsburgh, Delaware, Penn State, I would say Temple was pretty good baseball, St. John's. Their lineup was pretty strong up and down the middle, most of the, 1 through 6 or 7. And when you play some of the D3 schools, I found that once you get through 3, 4, and 5, if you're paying attention on the mound and, don't walk any guys and throw a strike as soon as you can, I would say, get ahead of the batters. These guys nowadays like to see what, watching Dustin Pedroia play. I mean, he's taking a pitch all the time, and I would definitely say, Chris, throw as many strikes as you can early in the count, and let's see what they have to offer because and see what these guys are swinging at. And certainly back when I was pitching, they didn't have all the stats, who's going to swing on a 1-0 pitch, or what's the guy going to throw, and none of this stuff was right. Gene and Randy, there was none of this stuff.
No.
You threw what you had to give him and hope the guy didn't catch up to it, and so I think maybe the stats do help quite a little bit more. Maybe now as you're going through a number 3 hitter with a man on first and second, what are his intentions and things like that. But the scouting, we never had any of that. It was just bring mano a mano, bring your best.
Right.
So
sometimes you're better off just going with that, and then instead of trying to trick them, just man up and attack them.
Correct. I mean, I would say walks will kill you all day long. I'd rather have the guy get 10, you put the ball in play, hopefully they'll hit it at you. You can make a play. But you start walking guys, then it becomes a real problem.
Right. I agree.
So.
All right. I guess, Randy, why don't you update us on your personal life? Where do you live now, your career, your family, all that type of stuff?
So I am like Gene in New Jersey. We're in northern New Jersey. And I am working as a financial advisor for Edward Jones. I had been with Smith Barney for a number of years. I transitioned back in '09 over to Edward Jones, and I've been very happy with that move. I've got my own office with an assistant, so it's neat and simple, and I don't get a lot of flack from management. I'm basically running my own show, which is nice. So if I do good, it's fine. If I do crummy, it's still okay because you're not living with a a manager looking over your shoulder every day of the week. So that's fun. And we have one son who is living out in California with his wife and two little girls. So we became grandparents a number of years ago, and that is definitely a life-changing experience for any of you guys that have yet to get to that point. So, of course, the problem now is we can't get out to visit them, so we're trying to do FaceTime and trying to do Zoom calls like this, and stuff. But it's been fun, and Gene and I particularly will go back to Bucknell as often as we can to see games and stuff, whether it be football or baseball, and it's just great to be able to have that history and that experience that we can go back and enjoy, and it's always different, but there's still that thread that never changes. There's like that consistency that is just really uniquely Bucknell, So
That's right. No, thank you. Wow. And how about you? Are you still umping?
Yeah, well, yes. Actually, here's my story. I basically have had two careers over my career. First half of my working career, I was in corporate industry. I worked my way up through various tax positions, internal audit, accounting positions, controllership positions. At one point, shortly after I became a CPA, I had a side practice that I was working on, and working for a firm as well, working for a company in corporate industry. Eventually, midway through my career, I made a break and started my own CPA firm. And at that point in time, that was in 1990, at that point in time, I went back to my passion and became a certified high school baseball official, okay? And I like to say that there's no greater place to watch a ball game than behind home plate, okay? So over the next 25 years, I officiated high school baseball. As I've gotten older, I've made the transition into girls softball. I actually just gave up my baseball card after all these years, and am now just a softball official. But my favorite two lines of all time, as a baseball official, ump, if you had one more eye, we'd call you Cyclops. Right, that was number one. And number two, I couldn't hit that with a telephone pole. Because I like to, up and down, everybody knows about, but the corners, nobody can really see, including coaches. So we used to like to give a baseball or two off the end of the plate, particularly in high school, because, the kids are a little bit harder to throw strikes, so. But basically, I've had a great career. I'm still working. I'm still active with my CPA firm. I enjoy it. I intend to keep working as long as I can. My wife is still working, so I can't see myself food shopping and doing laundry as much as she would like me to do. So I will continue to work as long as I can, as long as my health holds out, and as long as I find it, rewarding. So that's basically it in a nutshell. I have a son and a daughter. I have two grandsons. I have a grandson just starting at Sacred Heart University in Fairfield this fall. I have another guy that's a high schooler as well. He's a soccer and baseball player. My daughter wouldn't let either of the two of them play football, so that was a little disappointing for me, but it's all good. So we're all safe and well, and that's the most important thing.
For sure. Thank you. Jack, how about you? Update us on your personal life. What do you do?
So when after I got fat, I got fatter when I moved to Houston, Texas, and worked for Oscar Mayer.
Oh boy, yeah.
And I would eat the outdated bologna and sausage, and I got to be 225 pounds. I am now down to 167, 166, something like that. I'm in the retail liquor business. I have 4 liquor stores, 4 wine stores. About 75% of our business is all fine wine. So we got the good stuff with the bad stuff and all high-end things like that. It's good. Business has been pretty good. Our business has been very strong in the pandemic, which is not a way to do extra business when so many people are out of work and things like that. But we have 4 stores. We've been doing this for now probably since 1979. I have 3 sons and I have 3 grandsons, 5, 3, and 9 months. And that son of mine, the oldest one, works for me. He's done a great job so that I'm doing to him what my father did to me. I'm going to Naples, Florida for 3 months of the year, March, April, and May, play some golf and sit on the beach, and then let him worry about how business is. Because that's how it all happened to me. I coached Little League for probably 12 years. Well, actually, sort of a funny story. When I moved to Medfield, Mass, my oldest son was probably 7 years old. And I said, okay, Little League baseball is over. What are we doing in the summertime? How about some summer baseball? And the guy says, we don't have any summer baseball. I said, who doesn't play baseball in July and August? I mean, that's really when you want to play. He said, well, if you want to start a program, go ahead. So I put together his team, and then the next year went full boat and ended up with 800 kids, boys and girls, between the ages of 6 and 15, playing under the lights, travel program, travel team for 12 years old, 2 travel 12-year-olds, 11, 10, and 9, playing different towns all over, eastern Massachusetts. And one of the years, and I want to see, since we got 5 baseball guys here, I want you to tell me I'm going to tell you a story. I want you to tell me if I did the right thing. So in the Williamsport, which everybody wants to try and go to in a Little League team, this is 12 years old. I go to my meeting, and there's 11 teams that are represented in our district. And the guy says, we're going to have a new rule in Little League this year for the summer. I said, what's that? The guy says, we're going to have a balk. So he says, if anybody balks, the runners will advance. So I raised my hand and I said, okay, so, I played a lot of baseball in my life. I said, you can't lead in Little League. So why would you have a balk, nor in the Little League season in the spring? The pitchers, just doing the regular wind up and whatever. He said, no, Williamsport wants to have a balk. I said, okay. So I go back and I had, we had 6 or 7 good players, but to advance out of your districts, you got to be a little bit stronger. You need 3 stud pitchers who also play shortstop and maybe center field, and you need a catcher with a gun and things like that. You need strong players, obviously, to go, to win the states and go to New England and, all these different levels. So I put in a block play to win the game when I had no pitching left, because you can only pitch 3 innings, right? I think if you went 3 innings and 1 pitch, you're done for 3 days. So I said, okay, here's what we're going to do. Man on third base, and only if there's a man on third base, tie game, last of the 6th or last of the 5th. As soon as the pitcher starts his windup, the batter is going to put the bat down and kneel down in the batter's box and pretend to tie his shoe. So, and I've told probably 100 different guys in baseball. And I said, so I continue that. And so we get into the situation, and don't we know, the same situation exactly that I described. Tie game, man on third, last of the 6th. I have no more pitching. Little Johnny Jones, who's my 12th man on the roster, is going to have to come in and pitch. And he's on the roster because his mother's good looking. He's no different. He's no different than the 13th or 14th or 15th player that is on the B team or didn't make the Williamsport team. So we do it, and don't you know, the batter goes down, ties his shoe, and the pitcher goes up and stops. And the umpire goes, balk, runner on third, come home, game over, we advance. I go shake hands with the coach, who I happen to know, and he says, "Is that how you play?" I said, "Do you know the rules of the game? And by the way, I'll be keeping score." I remember that was a Joe Gibbs situation against when the Patriots were ahead 45-7, and Brady throws 50-yard bombs to Randy Moss with 3 minutes left in the game, and Joe Gibbs says, maybe we should be able to defend better. So I said, I don't know, I'm trying to win a game and trying to have my guys not lose 2 games and be out of the tournament. So I asked you guys, and some of my guys said, these boys, these 12-year-olds are going to be scarred for life. And I said, no, they're not. They're going to remember Mr. Recko put a play in. And you got, we all have Little League stories from whether it be Pop Warner or Little League Baseball of years ago of what you remember from a coach. So I'll start with you, Scott. You're up in the left-hand corner. Was that the right thing to do?
Well, I'd say baseball has a long history of trick plays, and you got to know the rules. So I'm with you. I think I need you as a bench coach. I need some of these trick plays. So I'm all for it. I think it was creative.
One more from me. All right, Todd, what about you?
Well, I would have called timeout and not as an official and not allowed that to happen.
The ump, yeah, a good ump would have stopped that pretty quick.
I would have something in my eye, and I'd have to hold up play.
There's a man on third base. The guy before that gets out. Okay, next batter comes up. We have the little play in the air or the touchdown. And first pitch, the guy goes down and puts the bat down. And boom, the game was over, and nobody understands. Well, people on my team, but the other guys go, "What are you talking? What's going on here? That guy did that, and blah blah blah." Randy, what are your thoughts, Randy?
Well, I would say it's hard to say it was totally right, but it's also very hard to say it's totally wrong. It worked, and you can't argue with success, And I think they're probably all the guys on that team are telling that story every time they get together for a cocktail party with their friends.
That's correct.
So
Chris,
it lives on. It lives on.
Right. So Chris, you're probably, what are you, about 8 years removed from that, probably, right? 7 years removed from Little League?
Yeah, I haven't played Little League in a while, but I think that's fine because at the end of the day, you got to do whatever you got to do to win, right? That's the main goal at the end of the day. And even though it's Little League, I don't know, because if I was in Little League and I lost in that situation if I was on your team and I was going to lose and then we ended up winning that way, I would be so excited. And I think that it would just boost our morale and we'd be playing even better the next games. So, and if the other team had that same trick play and they did it against you, then it's a rule. So you can't really defend against it. It's a smart play if you ask me. That's a good win.
Todd?
Hey, we're all competitive. If you're keeping score, you got to do what you got to do to win.
And by the way, April, I was going to say, in April and May when you're playing the in-town, everybody, they have participation trophies and, everybody tries to play equally at all time because it's not a big deal. Cause you don't want 12-year-olds not to go play the big diamond when they're 13. You want them to like the game. So that's a different story than playing competitively. And by the way, everybody knows that, you're on ESPN and you're on Williamsport and that's where everybody wants to go. So, I don't think I did anything wrong. Those are the rules. I didn't make the rules. So, anyway.
I'm basketball with Todd, and he's been known to bend the rules a little bit.
Boy, there we go. So Gene and Randy, I go to the Jersey Shore every year with my Sigma Chi boys. Every year, although we didn't go this year. Where in New Jersey are you guys?
Well, I'm in Paramus.
Okay.
Dean is in Upper Saddle River. So we're an hour, a little over an hour from the beach. So it's very convenient.
I had an uncle who lived on Upper Saddle River Road in, I guess, Upper Saddle River, right?
Right around the corner from where I live, right, yep.
Yeah. Very good.
Chris, why don't you ask your next question?
All right, so this one's also directed towards everybody. Do you have any regrets during your Bucknell baseball career?
I have one.
All right.
When I graduated, if I had gotten in shape and gone to Arizona or Florida as a walk-on, and said, I want you to tell me I'm not good enough to pitch at the next level, and work hard. Not that I would have made it, but all of us here were probably all-stars in your conference, and you play in college, it's another level. And then the pyramid goes like this. It's very tough to go as you work your way up. But that's the one thing I wish I had done, was to go somewhere and hook on with the club and say, the guy said, you know what, go get a real job. You're not quite good enough, or we can't use you, or things like that. But being left-handed, and kind of being a knucklehead a little bit and throwing sidearm and the ball moving every which way, that's the one thing I wish I had done, instead of going to Houston, Texas and eating outdated bologna. That would be my one regret. Other than that, no regrets.
Randy, how about you?
A little bit like what Jack is saying. I think I think back of how we prepared for the season, how we prepared for games and stuff like that, and it was a different time, certainly. So, but I am really impressed at how focused the current players are. They really work hard to develop all their talents, and maybe they're lifting weights, things like that, or doing whatever it takes to make themselves better. I kind of always thought of myself as kind of a natural player, and I guess I maybe, if I could say, maybe took that for granted a little bit. I probably could have worked a little bit harder and maybe had better results. I remember going back to our team captain, Frank Reynowitz. Gene probably remembers this too. At one point after one of our practices, Frank grabbed Gene and I, and he said, you know what? I want you guys to be, I want you to run wind sprints after practice every night, which we had not been doing. Not that we felt we gave a good practice and stuff, but he just tweaked the program just a little bit, and from that day on, after every practice, we would run, I don't know, half a dozen, whatever, wind sprints, maybe 50 yards, whatever, and it just made that little bit of difference. It kind of gave us a little bit more incentive and a little more toughness, and I kind of think that may have been part of what led to the kind of season we had, because he was doing that with everybody in his own way. He was tweaking to make things a little better. So I think I could have probably done a little bit more just to build on the skills and talents that I had anyway. No, the other thing I would say too, Chris, is just on an aside, I think one of the things that I probably, looking back, might have done differently, just in general, relative to my time at Bucknell. It's very easy to get caught up in athletics and make that the huge focus of your time at Bucknell. And don't get me wrong, Bucknell athletics are phenomenal, and you're obviously having a great time, and this is going to be stuff that you'll remember for the rest of your life. But the only other thing I would say is, don't feel like that has to be your whole life at Bucknell. There are lots of other things to do. There are lots of different things, cultural things. Meet different kinds of people. It's a wonderful opportunity to try a few other things besides just being on the ball field all the time.
Great advice. Gene, how about you?
Well, okay, regrets. Okay, I was torn between two sports. Okay, football and baseball. I love them equally. Okay, and it was tough to make a decision. If I had to make a decision, I don't know if I could make it even today. Enjoyed both of them. Both totally different. Football being, really the ultimate team game, and baseball being more of a combination of a team and individual sport, because obviously it's a team game, but there's a lot of individual achievement or competition that you had to apply. look, we finished football season around Thanksgiving weekend, and we started baseball in January. So we didn't have a whole lot of time to prepare for baseball. Okay, nowadays, obviously, the era of the two-sport athlete in Division I college athletics is probably non-existent. So my only regret was that I didn't put more time into becoming a better baseball player. I just kind of transitioned from one sport to the other. Took a couple weeks off during December, and then we were right back at it in January again. One of the piece of advice I could give to you is even after you leave college, stay in shape. I mean, the tendency is that you've worked out probably your entire life up until this point, and then once you graduate, you kind of get a little soft. And then I know a year or two after college, I said to myself, geez, I got to get back at it again, because I'm just not going to be happy with myself. And I always felt like a strong body is a strong mind. So I would say try to stay in shape your whole life. But in terms of regrets, yeah, I guess it was the short preparation for the baseball season that, I had. And it was really by circumstance, not by choice.
Yeah.
Sure. We have one guy doing both this next year, Wren Lynch. He came in as a quarterback, had a pretty good arm, but they moved him to wide receiver, so it allowed him to come out for us in the spring, and he's got a pretty good chance to get on the mound a bunch this spring. So
Great.
Guys on that experience. I got time for one last question. Who were the teammates or teammate that you admired the most, throughout your career here, and why? We'll start with you, Jack.
Let's see. I was going to ask real quick, Gene and Randy, who was on your team that was a freshman that may have been a senior that I played with?
Oh, you lost us with that. I have no idea.
Freshman our year.
Were freshmen allowed to play when you guys were seniors?
No, back in our day, in the late 60s, early 70s, I don't think they were. So.
Right.
Because my freshman year was 73, so that would have been you guys graduated in 70.
And
71. Yeah.
Huh? Yeah. So that would have been. So that guy would have been a senior if he was a freshman. I'll have to go see who that might be at some point. What was the question?
Who did you admire most?
Right.
Your teammate.
I would say a very good athlete. He played at multiple positions. Was Brad Bassey. He played center field, played short, pitched a little bit. Fraternity brother of mine. He was a very good baseball player. John Havis, a year ahead of me, from New Jersey, solid hitter. Let's see. I remember Denny Dean, who I mentioned before, was the catcher. And when I would get mad and I thought I had thrown 5 strikes to a batter and the umpire says ball 4, and I start to lose it, Denny would go, "Hey, they want strikes, so stay focused." And so my freshman and sophomore year with him behind the plate, he was sort of like a father figure, guidance a little bit. I may have been cocky coming out of prep school and high school, and he kind of put me in my place a little bit and said, "You know what, they're not strikes. So, either get better or pay a little more attention to where I put the target." So he would be one, those guys, most of those guys as upperclassmen. The other one would be Bobby Simonson, who was a couple of years behind me. Good for solid player out of Scranton. And those were the guys. I mean,
sure.
If we were 500 back then, we were good. We weren't really, we weren't, at the top of was Lafayette. And although we had some good games with Lafayette, but It was a competitive league, and certainly the games outside the conference were hard also. So those are some of those guys.
How about you, Gene?
Well, I would say Frank Arendowitz, okay? Frank was a couple years older than me. He was a two-sport athlete as well. He actually, when I made my visit to Bucknell, Frank and Sam Haverlack took me around campus for the weekend. And actually, Frank and Sam, what they did was they locked me in their fraternity room and said, you're not coming out until you agree to come to Bucknell. Okay. So,
the way it was done.
but Frank was a mentor of mine, a couple years older. He was from North Jersey as well. Very intelligent individual, a good balance between personal life and, the books and sports life. And, I looked up to him a lot as a role model. And to this day, I'm very appreciative of everything he's done for me. So I would say Frank Reynowitz would be the person that comes to mind the most.
For sure. He's come back a few times and even spoke at the school and spoke on leadership, which he got a good start on, certainly at Bucknell in his career as a football and baseball player and cap type of stuff. Randy, how about you?
Well, I would agree with Gene that Frank was incredible. I mean, Frank put it together probably better than anybody else that was at Bucknell during our time. I mean, he just really knew how to make it work. And so he was incredibly impressive. And I think back, I think of like a Vic Siegels, who was our shortstop, incredible athlete, multiple sports. We had I think one of the big differences in our year 1969 is we had some really good pitching. I want to say Tony Zidanzik, Ward Bauer come to mind. Just great competitive pitchers. Tony was a lefty too, So, and quite honestly, Gene and I kind of shadowed each other on the football field and the baseball field while we were at Bucknell. So I think Gene always inspired me. Gene and I think would compete, whether we would admit it all the time or not. But each of us pushed the other, I think, was really the way it was. We pushed each other to do better, to win, and also to have fun. So Gene was also very inspirational for me. But really, the whole team. I mean, when I think back, it was such a team effort on the gridiron, on the baseball field, I should say. So really, the whole team, in their own way, inspired me.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that friendly competition within the team a lot of times can push you a long way. Chris has a roommate, and actually in the whole freshman pitching class, I think is like that. They definitely push each other, but they pull for each other too. And I think it's going to help us go a long way with that. Well, that's it for my questions. Todd, you want to wrap it up?
I do, Coach. Thanks a lot. And again, another great session of Bucknell baseball through the decades. I want to thank the alums for taking the time out and making this work with your schedules and joining us today. And Chris, to you, thank you for doing the same, and good luck this fall. And we're all going to keep our fingers crossed that come this spring, you're out playing games and things are a little bit more back to normal for you. So good luck with your season as well. To those at home, thanks for watching. And to everybody else, go Bison.